The cursor blinked on the library screen, a steady, rhythmic pulse that Lucas ignored. His history assignment was due in 24 hours, yet the document remained untouched. He stared at the white void for a moment, then snapped his laptop shut. The weight of the bag felt light as he swung it over his shoulder and headed for the exit. Outside, the air was cooling. He reached the basketball court just as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in streaks of orange and violet. He joined his friends, the sound of sneakers squeaking against the pavement drowning out the quiet pressure of the library. "I have plenty of time," he muttered to himself, tracking the arc of the ball. Inside the classroom, the atmosphere was different. Emma sat at her desk, her movements precise. She pulled out folders, stacking them by category. When the teacher announced the final project, a massive task worth 40% of their grade, she did not hesitate. She opened her notebook and began drafting an outline. Lucas leaned back in his chair, tapping his pen against his chin, watching her work. "Relax," he said, gesturing at her organized notes. "I work better under pressure." He turned away, already planning his evening, while Emma turned the page and started her research. Weeks slipped through the calendar like sand. Emma spent her afternoons in the library, her desk disappearing under stacks of primary sources and color-coded slides. She tracked her progress with a checklist, marking off tasks one by one. Lucas, meanwhile, lived in the glow of different screens. He spent his hours scrolling through social media, his thumbs moving in a repetitive, mindless rhythm. He filled his afternoons with video games, the sound of digital gunfire replacing the silence of the library. He visited the mall, walked the halls with his friends, and kept his laptop buried at the bottom of his bag. He never checked the assignment prompt. He never looked at the calendar. He lived in the comfort of the present, convinced that the future was a problem for another day. Then, the final night arrived. The silence of his room felt heavy. He pulled his laptop out, the screen casting a harsh, artificial light against the dark walls. He opened the assignment prompt, and the requirement stared back at him. His heart hammered against his ribs. He looked at the clock. It was nearly midnight. His fingers flew across the keys, but the words felt hollow. He skipped citations, ignored the formatting, and shoved raw data into slides that lacked any coherent structure. The clock on his wall ticked with agonizing precision. At 3 a.m., he stopped to rub his eyes, the monitor light burning his retinas. He looked at the progress bar, then at the mountain of work still left. He pushed through, his movements jagged and desperate. As the first gray light of dawn touched his window, he hit the submit button and collapsed. The next morning, the classroom was a vacuum of sound. Emma stood at the front, her presentation polished, her voice steady as she answered the teacher's questions. Then, it was Lucas's turn. He walked to the front, his legs feeling heavy. He clicked through his slides. They were riddled with typos, incomplete data, and disjointed arguments. The teacher did not ask a single question. He simply sighed, closed the folder, and looked away. A week later, the grades were posted. The stone bench was cold against his back. Lucas watched the last of the students vanish toward the parking lot, the silence of the courtyard amplifying the weight of the grade he had just received. He reached into his bag, his fingers brushing against his laptop, and pulled out his planner. He flipped to a blank page. The paper was crisp, untouched, and mocking. He pressed his pen down until the tip nearly snapped and wrote one sentence. "I failed because I delayed." He stared at the words until they blurred. The next day, the cycle began again. A new assignment notification pinged on his screen. Lucas did not close the laptop. He did not reach for his phone. He opened a document and typed a header. He broke the project into 4 distinct, manageable tasks. He set a timer for 1 hour. The cursor blinked, but this time, he did not look away. He pushed his phone into the kitchen, behind a stack of books. He sat back down and began to research. The first paragraph was a struggle, but he finished the hour and closed the laptop. He was not running behind. Months later, the final term project arrived. Lucas did not wait. He started that afternoon, working in steady 30-minute blocks. When the presentation day came, he stood at the front of the room. He clicked through his slides, each one dense with research and clear, logical arguments. The teacher nodded, a sharp contrast to the silence of months ago. Lucas looked at his screen. A perfect A. He turned to Emma. She smiled, her desk neat as always. "See what happens when you stop waiting?" she asked. Lucas closed his notebook, the weight of the last few months settling into a quiet, earned confidence. He looked at the clock, then back at his notes. "Time is more valuable than I thought," he replied. He packed his bag, not in a rush, but with the measured pace of someone who finally controlled his own schedule.